It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the ToolShed podcast. This one's a little bit different. It was recorded not in the studio. I was on the boat at the time and spoke to one of our Black Belt members. And I thought it was important to speak to one of our members so you can get an understanding of what it's like being in a coaching group like Builders Business Blackbelt. And it's not all, beer and Skittles or rainbows and unicorns, as they say. There are lots of challenges, and it doesn't always go in a linear way where you get some information, implement it, and it just works. Now, sometimes that happens. Sometimes we make big gains. Sometimes we have big challenges, but we're always moving forward and always helping each other. So welcome to the podcast. I'm not in my usual position in the recording studio in the office. I'm on the boat, which isn't the worst place to be. But I'm speaking to Matthew Auld. He's at the he always argues at the start of the Great Ocean Road. I always thought it was at the end of the Great Ocean Road in Victoria. And he's one of our longer suffering Black Belt members. Welcome, Matt.
Thanks, Mick.
The reason and the reason that I'm not in the normal place is I've been trying to get Matt on the podcast for a little while, and we just had to make it happen. So he's at home and I'm on the boat. And what we want to talk about today is just Matt's warts and all experience in Black Belt and the coaching process, and in particular the value of the community, whether it's Black Belt or another community. Just the value of being in a group of people who are in the same industry, do the sort of same things, and sharing their trials and tribulations, experiences and systems to help you move forward faster. But I think one of the most valuable things is just knowing that you're not the only one with these problems. Everyone else is suffering just like you are. I think seems to bring people solace. But you've been with us a few years. Tell us about why you decided to jump into a coaching program.
I think I reached out to a couple back in. I was just, saw a bit of Facebook advertising, and I reached out to a couple, and yourself and Julie were the ones that actually made contact the next day after I'd put the inquiry out. We were in a, I would call it diabolical financial position in a bad way. I was very inexperienced with building and quoting, and I was just taking on my first couple of projects that were quite large. One was a full house reno, which I still don't know the final figures of what we lost on it, but it was upwards of $100,000. So to have that as your first project, starting out in your building career was quite it was quite daunting, and I put a lot of blame on myself for putting us in the position. I also had a bit of a victim mentality and all that sort of stuff, which we've uncovered and we've rectified. But yeah, that the main reason was I felt I had bad clients and bad jobs. In the end, we've worked out that it was my management or mismanagement of clients, prospective clients, and projects is the reason why we were blaming our clients for the experience we'd put ourselves into.
Yeah. One of the things that I want to establish and accomplish with this conversation is the reality of the experience in a coaching scenario. And I think, like most social media posts, which I think is a massive issue in today's age,
is that these impossibly high standards and expectations are out there because people are watching everybody else's life on social media, and no one takes a snap of themselves when they've got the shits or frustrated or depressed or their world's falling apart. It's always happy and smiling, out on the piss, walking with the dog on the beach, playing golf. It's all happy days. And also, I think when you listen to podcasts like this or interviews like this, and I'm interviewing you as you're a paying client in our black belt program, the desire would be for you to say, mate, it's absolutely fantastic. It's just been brilliant, and I've gone from nothing to everything in a short space of time, and the system's amazing, and it's just brilliant. That's not the reality. That's So I want to take you right back to the very start. And so I'm assuming that, like, when we reached out, you jumped into the program and your initial thoughts were potentially excitement or whatever. But then reality, as it does, sets in. And I remember I was on a cruise ship in Vancouver, and we were heading up the Inside Passage to Alaska for a week's cruise. And I got your wife reached out and said, Matt's in a really bad way, and we tic-tacked and you were just about to pull the pin on it already because it was difficult. And fortunately we'll be able to sort of talk you down off the ledge and keep you in the program. And, we'll talk about the rest of the journey in a minute. But do you remember that time?
Yeah, it wasn't very nice. I guess when I jumped into the program, you think of that silver bullet or theory where, you just want something that's just going to give you a quick fix. And anything worthwhile is not a quick fix. But I do remember that, struggling to get out of bed. Yeah, it was a pretty emotional and dark time that we were in, because we jumped into the program, and it was a financial cost on top of the cost that I'd put myself into, with the misquoting and all that sort of stuff. So I just remember thinking, what have I done to myself to get myself into this? And it shouldn't be like this. You look, like you said, you look at all the builders and all that around us, and they're all driving the flash utes and it's all sunshine and rainbows. But very rarely any business is sunshine and rainbows. It's it's quite the opposite. Sorry to pinch a phrase off you, but but I do remember that was a shocking time in our business, a really, really hard time. So, and still quite raw. I've developed and been able to change my mindset a hell of a lot between then and now. I actually hadn't really thought about what it was like before I joined the program, because I think I've not blocked out that part of my life, but I've been able to have a lot of gains and a lot of good gains, so that I can look at the times that I'm having now. The bloke that we're about to talk about quite often tells me that the problems we have now, the local builders around us and, in part Australia, probably worldwide, would give their right arm to have the problems that we have now. But we see them as big problems because we have a level of expectation upon ourselves, I suppose. So, yeah, but I try not to think about too much how the position we're in, because it was very emotional and very hard. And I was probably in a environment, or not an environment. I'd created the environment where I didn't want to be in that anymore. And luckily didn't make any stupid decisions and just stuck at it. And, here we are.
So going back to the start again, and I do want to get to the story of your stalker because it's hilarious.
I think he's
But
everyone's stalker.
yeah, he is. Yeah, that was another story just came into my mind that happened recently, but I'll keep it to myself. You started, and you went through that little bit of a wobbly patch, and then you sort of stuck with it. But I suspect, in retrospect, you would also think that the first, I don't know whether it was 18 months or 2 years or whatever, you were kind of just spinning the wheels and not really making a great deal of progress, but you stuck with it. And then there was a time, I'm not sure what happened, but it was like there was a lightning bolt or something, and your engagement went up. You turned up to everything. You were journaling, and the business went through a growth spurt of effectiveness and just good times. But it was just tell me what was going on, and explain to the listener your experience when you first started, and your sort of quite slow trajectory. What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What was going on? And then what happened?
Well, I still remember the phone call because that was the turning point from yourself to get me. And you're right, it was probably about 18 months, 2 years that we were in the program, and things were, I reckon I put it to treading water, head just above the water. We weren't creating too much profit, but we were able to survive. We still had a few financial issues and all that sort of stuff. I guess the moment where it changed was, I still remember it. I was doing a job for Dusty Pickford, a bloke I know. I was standing next to his pencil pines along his driveway. It's very clear. That's how how detailed it is. And I got a phone call from yourself. I'd been missing in action a little bit on the momentum calls and the. I think back then it was the once a month thing that we used to do. So we didn't really. I think we were close to that COVID momentum call timeline where Black Belt changed a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still remember it. I was leaning against one of the pencil pines, and you said to me, it wasn't my last chance, but it was basically from you. If I wanted to get anything out of this, I had to engage and I had to accept responsibility about the position we were in, and I guess get rid of that victim mentality that I had of still looking for that silver bullet that was just going to, come along and turn us into millionaires and all this sort of stuff. And it just, it's not true. So, but that was the moment, very, very vivid moment that I still remember it quite clearly.
So what changed in your thinking, and how did that manifest in behavior, choices, actions? Stop there and start doing.
I guess the not threat that came from you, but the
I don't recall it as a threat.
No, it was more wording that, and you did. You said, look, if you're gonna be here, you're here 100%. If not, there's no point being here. You're just wasting your money and wasting everyone else's time. Yep. And it got me thinking, gee, that the investment we put into Black Belt each month, I am just like all the information and all the knowledge was there. I was the one that had to action it. So you can't just expect someone to come along and, take your business over and turn it into what you want it to be. You have to do it yourself. It's got to come from within. But that moment, that conversation we had, very clear in my mind that I had to change. And that was the engagement in the momentum calls, in the I still remember back in those days where Wayno used to call me up and I'd look at the phone ringing and I'd almost, or not almost, I used to ghost it a lot because I knew I knew it was going to just turn into me complaining about this and about that. I was drinking a lot. As you know, actually yesterday, the 20th of March was 4 years since I've stopped drinking. So, and that was around about that time too. And I still remember that call that you made to me, that because I said, I'm going to try it for a month. And you said quite clearly that the power of the decision of stopping something that is harming you is when you decide to never do it again, or to stop. That's the easiest, when you just say, I'm not doing it, it becomes easy. And yeah, that was I still remember that phone call too. And no, that was a momentum call. But I still remember when you said that, and I thought, shit, that's really powerful. That's exactly what I need to do. So I did that, created more engagement, and funnily enough, everything turned around.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. We're always trying to bring you information that's going to make your life as a builder much easier. So give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode.
Yeah. So business changed, results changed, your energy changed, your health changed. And again, I want to make sure in this conversation that it's not this, from that point on, everything was wonderful.
No.
Because the reality of the situation is that it doesn't matter where you get to with building a team, getting money in the bank, profit. So you've got excesses of cash. Something is going to come along in life and punch you in the face when things go really well.
Yeah.
And we hopefully get better quality problems. That's I think the best that we can hope for, but they're always going to be there. And so over the last little while, and I want to talk about you had a dream of building your own home for quite some time, and that was pressing on you. And then some time ago, you got yourself in a position where you could build your own home, and you built your own home. And I want you to share the warts and all experience of that, because the reason I want you to unpack that is that what I see through the coaching program is that builders make some errors of judgment along the way, and because they are builders, their assumptions are, I'll be able to, this is a good thing for me to do because I'm a builder, because I can get the stuff at cost price, and I can build it myself, and I save all of that money and all of that sort of stuff. And it's all a load of bullshit. Like people build their own offices or do up their own homes or buy a block of land and do a spec house. And some of these big projects that you take on and think that you can get a good result and it's a smart idea because you're a builder, often causes massive problems in the business. Tell us about your experience building your own home, which was a dream for you for a long time.
Yeah, I remember when we came down to Hobart for our first time catch up with you and Julie.
Yep.
I think it was at the golf club.
It was at the golf club.
From memory. Yep. So it was, I think it's coming up 6 years ago that happened. So we had the block of land then, and it was probably a noose around our neck, but it was our dream location. We'd searched for it for a long time, blah, blah, blah. And I remember you saying to me, you have to sell this block in order to, become, just to take the noose around our neck sort of thing. We decided not to, obviously. But we got through that. And then once we got ourselves into a better financial position, we decided to build the house. We got I took pretty much, I worked every single day for about 9 months to do it. Massive financial toll, because obviously you're not working out there and earning money while you're doing your own thing. family and emotional problems, I guess, because I wasn't around. I was leaving at 6 a.m. and I was getting home at 7, 8 o'clock at night. So I wasn't around to see the kids. But I had this on my goal list, in my PSR every single day, which is still unchecked from, I have not missed a day from the 19th of the 9th, 2019. And it was constantly on there. And then when I completed it, I was like, wow, is this it? Like, I should be feeling better. So I think I had a bit of a gap mindset with that. I was having an expectation rather than celebrating what we'd achieved and where we'd come from. It was probably a good moment to go back to that time when you're in Vancouver and Suze was messaging back and forwards and going, I'm about to throw it all in. Because if I look at that moment and then compared to what I'm living in now, it's chalk and cheese. And we've been able to do it, obviously, with the help of everyone in the community as well, with our business decisions. But I'm learning to appreciate the home a lot more that I've constructed. I quite often walk around now and I go, geez, this is pretty good what we've done.
Brilliant. So, there's challenges, but I do also want to balance it out with some gains that you've made. And I know you're a mad bloody car nut, and you like classic cars. So tell us the story about one of your other goals, being able to get that classic car that you got from Perth.
Yeah, well, there's two. So one, I've actually just got back into the shed at the moment. That's a VB Commodore that I owned when I was 19.
Wow.
And I've had it for probably 8 years. So it's been a slow build. It's just come back from the panel beater, nearly ready for paint. But I quite often just go into the shed and just stare at it and go, wow, from what it was to what it is now, is pretty cool. But the XC Fairmont that I bought from Perth, we'd accumulated a really healthy profit account, and we also had a bit of cash, come into the business. The ATO doesn't watch these things, do they?
I think so. I think we're streaming directly to the ATO.
There you go. They'll find out. They know we all do it. And that was over the COVID time. And then we were able to, my first car was an XC Falcon. And I found this thing in Perth. I had one of the members from our group, Mitch Fragar, he went across and had a look at it for me, said it was really, really nice, blah, blah, blah. He said if he was into that type of car, he would have bought it. So I said, righto. We had it shipped across, and the feeling of every time I get in that car and drive it, it reminds me of, some of the better decisions I've made with building and business and stuff like that, to be able to, have that while we're here and not waiting until we're 60 or 70, to save up for something. We can actually do something about that. So it's a pretty cool feeling to be able to get in that car and take it for a spin and just have that, that gain mindset that, we paid for this, no loan or anything like that, just cash up and away we went.
At the start, I said I wanted to sort of unpack the value of the community. So, and what I mean by that, it's just that the membership of Blackbelt, and it's not the only one in the country, but it's the one that we're in, so it's the one that we'll talk about. But the value of being in a community, what things come to your mind in relation to experiences that you've had, laughs that you've had, value that you've received from conversations from people in the community, times perhaps when you've reached out to somebody because, and not me, like somebody else in the black belt community, to ask for some help or ask for some questions, or they've reached out to you? What comes to mind when you think about that?
I've struck up, as you know, a really good mateship with Wayno and Leesy from Warwick and Beer. So they're 3.5 hours away from here. But I talk to him every day. So, and sometimes it could be, if he's having a good day and I'm having a good day, you could be talking to each other 5 or 6 times a day just to explain what's going on and celebrate, what's happening, or, I might have a bit of good news and I want to tell someone. I ring him and let him know about, business stuff, because he gets me, and I think his business model, even though it's different to ours, his position and the feelings that he would have had when he was at the stage he was at when he joined are very similar to where I was. Yeah. So we've got that in common. We've struck up a really good friendship. Like, I can't talk about some of the stuff we talk about because it's just stupid, but it is. He's a lifelong friend, and I look at if I was getting married tomorrow, he'd be my best man. He'd be standing right beside me. So that's just testament to the friendships that we make in these groups. It's not, we don't go up and shake each other's hand or anything like that. Whenever we see each other, it's a hug. It's a real bond that we've built with these people. Andrew and Justin are another crew that come away with us when we go, camping or staying away or whatever we decide to do. We haven't done it for a little bit, but I'm sure that when we get back up to either the river or Hall's Gap or wherever we go, it's just like old times. But everyone in the group has something to add value-wise to everyone. So accounting wise, I'll ring Andrea a lot about that. I haven't had to for a while because we've got ourselves a really good accountant that's all over what we're doing. But at the start, she took a lot of that overwhelm away from me and was able to help me out. Paul Purden, down your way, he helps me out a lot with the side business we got with the sheds. So I lean on him quite often. Just give him a phone call and have a chat. And everyone always seems to be in your corner. There's no competition for spots or anything like that. I think even if some of these members were living in Warrnambool, in our town, there wouldn't be competition. We'd be trying to help each other as much as we can. Which is, at the end of the day, it's the best way of running your business is working with everyone, because we're all there to help each other.
Yeah, it's something that just evolved. I didn't design the group to work that way, but I just remember, and you mentioned Andrea, and it was back in the day when Andrea and Wayne and Lee had joined, so that was 10 years ago or something. And we were just sitting in one of the face-to-face group meetings that we had, little groups. And I from my memory, I think it might have even been Andrea just asked for, does anyone have something to do with colour selection system or what have you? And one of the members at the time said, yeah, I've got this thing. And it turns out that there was this incredible system for customer colour selections and what have you that had taken 2 years of this other person's time to put together. And they just immediately offered it to the other member and said, all you need to do is, here you go, just change the logo on the letterhead and you're golden. It's like two years of effort they just gave away to somebody they met that day. And I just always remember that, because it's just been a part of the community, be a big part of the community ever since the start. This sharing of resources and sharing of experiences and ideas. And I've even, the members, unbeknownst to me, have gotten on planes and flown to other members' states and helped them with a project, like got on the tools and helped them with a project and stuff. And it's just so wonderful. And which kind of brings me to one of the things we definitely have to talk about is Wayne, because he was one of the first people to join Black Belt when it became Black Belt. We've got some members that are in Black Belt that were in our coaching group before it became Black Belt. So some of them have been around for 20 years, which is just a testament to the quality of the community, And again, I can't take responsibility for that. It's, I get to tell people where we meet and what we do, but the quality of the people in the group has just been extraordinary. And Wayno's one of them. And we affectionately call him the stalker for a bunch of reasons. And somebody was just telling me the other day that, and they're quite new in Black Belt, and they said, I got this phone call from Wayne, and he says, he starts the phone call, starts a conversation with, you don't know me, but anyway, I'd like you to tell your story with as much detail as you can remember about how you met him, because he was already in Black Belt. You'd just joined Black Belt, and for whatever reason, Wayne seems to think it's sport to reach out to new Black Belt members. And in his mind, I'm sure it's to welcome them to the group.
Yeah, he's got his own way of doing it, that's for sure. But I still remember I was sitting down. It was pissing down rain. I was doing a quote, free quote, which we don't do anymore. So yeah, that's another story for another day. Yeah. And I had the phone rang, and I'm looking at it thinking, I don't know that number. And I was at that stage where I was still scared to answer the phone. So because you didn't know whether it was someone chasing money or what it was. Anyway, it rang, I ignored it. And it was a Saturday morning. And then it rang like 3 times. It just kept going. I said, oh God, who is this? So I answered it, and it was really abrupt. I'm thinking it's a telemarketer. So, yeah, hello, who is it? And he goes, and he's in the car, the music's going in the car, the kids are talking, and Leesy's, yapping. And so it was quite loud, and it was really distracting. And it's like, he's going, it's Wayno. And I'm like, nah, mate, I don't know any Waynes. Got no idea what you're talking about. So I hung up on him. Anyway, it rang again. And Susan and I were just talking about this morning. It's quite funny. It rang again, and he goes, it's Wayno from the group. And I'm like, right, this bloke has lost the plot. So I hung up again, and I put the phone on silent. And then I went out to the kitchen, and I said, Suze, I got this bloke giving me a call, and he's saying his name's Wayno, and he's from the group. And she goes, she said, I got a request the other day, like a friend request on Facebook, and we're really, we always make sure that people that we're bringing into our social media lives aren't just anybody. And we'd had I think we only had 3 boys at that stage, whatever. And she goes, and I said, well, who is it? Show me. And I had a look, and I said, I don't know who that is. And she goes, well, I'm not accepting it because he could be a pedophile, or he could be. And oh my God, and I'm thinking that I didn't make the connection with that and the guy calling the phone. Anyway, it rang again, and he goes, I'm out the front. He goes, I'm out the front. And I'm like, and I wasn't near the study window, so I couldn't see. And I've gone, Suze, he says he's out the front. And I've gone racing out, looked out the window, and then I seen him, and he didn't have a black belt top on. I can't remember what clothes he had on, but he came in and he had lollies and chocolates. Oh, and then we joke about this all the time, and every time the story doesn't get more exaggerated, it just gets said in more detail. And oh shit, we laugh. If you had Wayno on this call here, he would not be able to talk. It was so bloody funny. Anyway, he came in. They had, he's come in with the big bear hug, and so's Leezy. And, we sat down and we made the connection, and we sat down. And that was the moment where we knew, these guys I think they were in, I'm going to say they were in Portland for the weekend for either Riley, one of their lads, on a scooter thing, or it must have been for the weekend or whatever. And they'd made the effort to come across and see us, and it's never an issue for them. They always make the effort. We make the effort. Cooper had a basketball tournament the other weekend, and I said to Suze, "Come on, let's get in the car." It was like 35 degrees. And she goes, "Where are we going?" I said, "The Prestons are in Portland. We're going across, just going to see them." And we spent, a couple of hours over there. And it is just so refreshing to have people like that in the group where we're all in it for the same reason. We're all in there to help people and make sure everyone gets the best out of themselves. I'm surprised my phone hasn't rang while I've been on this thing, because he has the uncanny ability to know to call at the wrong time. So he's a great mate. Always will be. Love him to death. But not just Wayne and Leasy. We've made some really, really good friends with people in Blackbelt. It's just, for some reason, the man, he's just, we just get each other. So yeah, it's a very funny story though.
Yeah, and it's not the funniest story either, and we're just not going to tell some of the other stories.
Oh yeah, you can't. Yeah. Some of them need to be kept for members only.
Yeah. Well, you had to be there. But some of the stories that Lee told about Wayne, one at dinner one night before an intensive, I just remember sitting next to Paul Purden, and we were in tears for half an hour, and we couldn't even talk about it afterwards. We would just crack up, and you couldn't breathe, and you're just crying with.
It's you can't make that stuff up.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But he has an absolute heart of gold.
Yeah.
And would do anything for you he would drop what he was doing if it was, important for him and his family, and he knew that you're in trouble, he would drop everything he's doing right then and there and get to you as quick as possible, or be there for you, as much as possible. So I'll hold him in high regard.
Yeah, no, he's valuable member of the group for sure. But I think that can be said about a lot of people. And I've one of the bizarre things that I find about just observing the community, even though I'm part of the community and I started it and all of that sort of stuff, I'm not a builder, so I'm not a part of the community in that way. And I just notice, observing that when somebody does come into Black Belt, and obviously we have a big focus on checking people out and people coming through the Blueprint program, which is like a minimum 12-week program. It gives us an opportunity to really work with them and be with them and find out whether they'd be the right fit for Black Belt. But when somebody does apply for Black Belt and they end up in Black Belt, it is crazy to me how the other members embrace that new person and share and support the very first moment that they meet them. They've never met that person before, and for some reason, because they were able to get into the Black Belt community, they just get accepted as the same as somebody who has been in it since the start. It's just bizarre.
Yeah. So, but that's testament to the qualified process that you have to have people come into the group. As I said before, everyone has something that they can add in value to someone else.
Yeah.
And the people, it's not even really a community; it's more of a family, I reckon. That's what it feels like. And if I missed a momentum call, I'm probably one of your more engaged members now. I try not to miss as much as possible. I always structure my work around the momentum calls on the Monday, Wednesday, and the Friday. And I think that's I feel bad if I miss out, because what are we sharing? What are we talking about? What can I learn? Been in the program 6 years, but there's still so much more every day that we can learn.
Yeah. Well, we need to wrap it up, I guess, just looking at the time. But again, I just want people to really understand the reality of being part of something like this. And I don't think, if I were to ask you, there's any doubt in your mind that it's worthwhile. But I just want people to understand that I'm not interested in just putting all of the good stuff forward, because that's not life. Like, it's ups and downs and ups and downs, and that will never stop. And just because you're in a program like this and part of a community like this, it doesn't mean that you don't have your trials and tribulations. And and it's up to you as to how much you want to share about that. But you've been challenged emotionally and with your thought processes of recent days, months. And it all kind of was after you completed your home, and you've talked about that, and you kind of moved into your dream home, and you think, is this all there is? And you didn't have the experience that you were probably expecting. And that kind of impacted your whole thought process about your business and your future and all of that sort of stuff. So tell us about that, as much at least as what you're comfortable talking about, and how, if any way, again, being part of the community has affected, supported, guided, influenced your decisions and where you are now and what you're thinking and how you're feeling.
Yeah, I've always struggled with mindset, as in have had that victim mentality, quite often, and it's a shocking place to be, because as soon as one little thing you manifest, it might only be a small problem, but it can feel like a big one, and you just start going, is this actually worth it? Like, I remember, it was around Christmas time. I was ready to pack it in, and you said, just keep chipping away at it and chipping away at it, and the engagement back in the group, because I think I missed 2 or 3 at the start of the year, and I was a bit unsure about, what I was wanting to do this year and all that sort of stuff. And I ended up getting back in the group, and we had the Ian Segal thing last year, which was all on the programs that we've created in our own head, and, from being a child and all that sort of stuff. And it was quite, I guess the moment I needed to accept the position I was in was the responsibility of me, and for me to change, I had to do. You got to own up. But being on that, at that point of wanting to quit and wanting to throw it all in, that's actually the moment where you need to ramp things up, and you got to jump back in and reach out to people and learn from others. I've found myself now realizing that the systems and the processes of the business rely heavily on my mindset. So if it's not right, it doesn't matter if I've got a system to choose paint colors for a client, because if my mind isn't right at the start of the day, the whole day is just gonna turn to shit. So, getting back to what we were talking about, the engagement now with the group, like, I know there's a few members that don't jump on the Friday one. I see the Friday momentum call with Dean to celebrate our gains and our lessons as the most important part of the week. And it gives you a chance to reset and acknowledge what the little mistakes that you can fix for next week, but also celebrating what the little wins are. And they might only be minor. It might be a chance to change, instead of going into an argument with a client, it might be a point where, hang on, we've got to listen to them a little bit more and then change it. And I'm trying to think of the word, but anyway, change that scenario so that it's better for you. Like that's a big win. And they need to be celebrated, on that every Friday. And without that, I mean, we're just on autopilot. We're just going through the motion, and we're not, we just get up on the Monday and we keep going. Whereas if you reflect and you learn from what's happened during the week, and what better place to do it than with the black belt members that turn up each Friday and we talk about it. So,
which we're just about to jump on shortly.
Yeah.
That one. So we'll need to pull the pin on it. But I just think that it's this, to me, is a really valid and valuable message to people listening, because they will look at a coaching program as being the solution. And once I get on that and I learn everything that I need to learn, everything is just going to be perfect from then on in. All of those issues will disappear. And what you've just said is you jumped on 6 years ago after coming from a painful experience, thinking that was going to be good. It only took weeks for you to get the wobbles on and thinking, I'm going to bail out of this. This is no good. And you maintained that. You've created great connections and built great friendships in the community. You've achieved one of your biggest goals, with the house and the cars and all of that sort of stuff. And yet still you have thoughts of, this is shit. I want to just walk away from it. And you didn't. You lent on the community and got some good support and all of that. And to me, that's real life. It's not this bloody social media happy snaps. Look where I am standing in front of this big boat or an aeroplane or a flash car or what have you, and life's just wonderful. What I want this conversation to have been about is the reality of the situation, and it's ups and downs all the time. That will never stop. And as I said, all we can hope for is getting better quality problems, which I think you're starting to experience, better quality problems. But
Definitely.
just wanted to say thanks for taking the time to have this discussion and being open and telling us your truth and how things really are. And that's what it's like being in a coaching community. And I don't know, I think we're probably a little bit different to some of the others.
I was just going to say that, that some of the ones that I look at, on Facebook, they seem to be very system based and process based coaching groups, whereas
which is important. Systems are important.
Yeah, which they are, but I think the feeling of connection and the community is like the systems and the processes are there as soon as I want them. Like there's someone in the group that has created it and is willing to share, like what we were talking about before. Yep. It's there at the drop of a hat. All you got to do is be in the right frame of mind to be vulnerable and say, look, I need help over here. Now, whether that's mindset or system-based or whatever it is, that help, this community that we're in, I think is the best one, by far.
Yeah. You might be biased because I don't know how many others you've been in, but...
No, I haven't been in any others, and I can't pass judgment on them. But I would imagine that if they're all system based and process based, you would get your information, you would learn what you need to learn, and then you would get out. Whereas this one, because of the community, you just want to help out. You want to be, you want to contribute and help others.
That's the bit I like about it the most. And the call we're about to get on is actually run by one of the members who has been with us for, I don't know, at least a decade and a half, if not more. He's running this call we're about to jump on, and he's sold his business. He doesn't even have a business. What the hell do you want to be in a business coaching group for if you don't have a business? But there you have it. It's not about that. It's about community, and you've still got goals, and you've still got, you know, your purpose, and identifying your purpose, and living your purpose, and all of that sort of stuff, which is far beyond just building a business. And that's available to everybody in this community. That's the direction that we want to take people in, is build a business that gives you a fair degree and an increasing degree of time and financial freedom, so you can start to think about the deeper things, find what really lights you up, what is your purpose, what do you love doing, and allow you to engage in what that purpose is for the majority of your life, you know. So your business supports you to be able to do that. So it's not really business, you know, it's life, I guess. But as I said, great chat. Maybe what we'll do in the future is get you back on with Wayno at the same time, and I'll just get out of the way, and we can record a conversation between you and he and see what shakes. Because if anything,
you might have to change the rating of your show. That's all.
It would be compelling listening, I'm sure. It'll
Definitely
give everyone a laugh. So thanks again for sharing the reality of what it's like being in the black belt community.
No worries. Thanks, Mick.
Well, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Matt Auld. He's a great guy. He's made a lot of progress in Builders Business Blackbelt. And as you heard, the relationships that are built in a community like this are forever. They're so long lasting. And it's the best part of being part of a community like this, is the long lasting, invaluable relationships that you create, helping each other and sharing each other's pain as well as gains. So it's all a great experience when we're moving forward together. As I said, I hope you enjoyed it. Before you get out of here, quick reminder, if you haven't done the Builder Scorecard, click the link, take 90 seconds and get some really cool stuff in your inbox very, very shortly. I'll be back with another episode of the ToolShed podcast. Before you know it, I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Blackbelt. That is all. I'm out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.